Hey guys, episode 4, the fourth in this series, is up. Playing 4 tables again and I unlocked the HUD, by the way, so now I can move the top left table. I can move around. So when check on the flop here, I gotta bet the turn, and then checks the river. I'm just gonna check back on the off chance that he's got something like that, or maybe a jack. Maybe he's got queen anyway. He's gonna call, and I don't beat anything because we got the kicker. Yeah, so in terms of real quick, I'm experiencing some weird slowdown with I'm running Windows on Parallels, and so bear with me if it gets to be kind of annoying and slow. I'm going to try and truck through this video, as I wasn't able to find anyone to help me troubleshoot it, but if it's unbearable, I'll remake a video for you guys. So Lockheed check calls the flop after calling pre-flop. I mean, usually when somebody check calls this board, I like to really only barrel with hands that have some equity, unless I know a little bit more about the player. It's interesting. It'd be interesting to raise this river to try and represent a straight. But the thing is, like, when somebody bets here, unless they're bluffing, they usually bet call, because when they expose themselves to a raise by betting in the first place, they think oh, maybe I should have checked, but because I bet he could be bluffing, could be bluff raising, and then people talk themselves into a call, especially when your range is kind of narrow. Like, you have a straight there or you're bluffing. It's hard to make straights, and sometimes if you had a straight, you would bet the turn. So I re-raise ace-7 of hearts here because Stillwell and I are kind of in a little mindfuck mode. Because right previous to loading up the recording software, we had gotten into a blind versus blind battle where I 3-bet him to the same amount with, and notice I'm folding slowly. I'm folding ace-10 off under the gun on the bottom right. Oh, this is tilting. Ooh, wow. So I'm just going to lead here because of stack sizes. Against some players I might lead anyway. But I like leading because if he raises, I can just shove, and if he calls, I can continue betting, or I can check raise the turn. And because of the shallow stack size, 21-41, it's easier for me to get the money in than if I check raise the flop. If I check call, he can control the pot. But back to my reasoning for why I 3-bet Stillwell there. I had 3-bet him earlier, the same size blind versus blind with tens, and he 4-bet me, and I jammed, and he folded. So I like to take the opportunity to just, when I've got that dynamic going and I can get in a cheap little aggressive play there that might piss him off considering what happened previously. If I can start to shift the dynamics in the game into my favor, ideally the next time I'll have a situation where he opens and I've got a strong hand and he's got a hand that is a little bit too weak to 4-bet and call, or even call pre-flop against other players, but because it's against me, he may overplay it a little bit, and because of that history, I'm just gonna pot on the bottom left. I've been experimenting with larger bet sizes, and they seem to be working. Here, this is kind of a really weak check call with pocket sevens, but sometimes I might turn into a bluff, and I'm going to pot again there on the bottom left with the intention on potentially checking the river. I mean, this is definitely a river that I'll check because I don't really expect to get called by worse. I'm going to fold here and fold here. Probably should have folded the sevens on the flop, or maybe even turned them into a bluff. Another option I could have gone with on the top right is to check raise the turn and kind of semi-bluff with it, and if I've got if he calls, I might, depending on what the river is, there's a lot of different things that you could do. If he calls, I think his most likely hand there is, well, I don't know. What do you guys think? I'm not really sure what happens when somebody calls there. Are they more likely to jam a draw on the turn, or are they more likely to jam an ace? I think the answer to that, as I talk it out loud, depends on the kind of player. And because of the history that I just talked about pre-flop with this guy, I really see no reason to start putting myself in a marginal situation against him. I've got to move this over here. It's annoying me. A marginal situation with him post-flop when I'm bluffing and out of position, and there's just so many reasons not to do that, so we avoid it altogether. But I still like thinking about the possibilities, because maybe that's a good way for me to play a strong hand there, whereas previously I might, I don't know, check raise a flop. And we'll open this, even though it's a little loose. I'm trying to be tighter this session, but I'm not going to be super duper tight. But I'm going to be tighter than I was last session you guys watched me play. In terms of overall progress, and bankroll building, I took a shot at 100 NL heads up, 2 buy-in shot, lost 2 buy-ins. So I'm about even, slightly up a little bit on the account. I played a couple more sessions between this week and last week, but I had to upgrade Windows 8, and when I upgraded Windows 8 from the free trial, it lost the 2,000 hands or so I had played previously in the series. So I really don't. When this guy makes it 6 to 150, oh well. I mean, I usually smell ace king there, but yeah, because of his stack size was so small, it could have really been a multitude of things. I will 3-bet Jack Queen here. I like 3-betting better than calling, and I like it a little bit better than folding. Just don't think there's too much money to be made out of position in that situation. I mean, here, same situation against Flash. I could 3-bet or I can call. Here I'm going to just check call the flop with my nut-no pair. So I took a 2 buy-in shot at 100 NL heads up. Got ace-queen in twice against ace-king. Lost both. I texted Chuck DeucesCracked, also DC co-founder. It's interesting, what is his range here when he bets? I mean, he can have draws. He can have... Well, he knows my range is weak. It's hard to say if he's going to capitalize on it. My range is weak because I didn't 3-bet pre-flop. His range is all sorts of draws, and it's also king X and maybe even queen X. So it's kind of hard to play with ace-jack there. I'd keep calling with a queen. Ace-jack might even be a call against certain players. It's the kind of thing where, if I spend some time analyzing a database, then I might... Oh, I gotta move that even further. Oh, I keep clicking... That's why I keep clicking on the highlighter thing. I spend some time analyzing the database, and I might know a player like that's specific tendencies, so I could pretty much construct a easy range to play against them, whether it's knowing whether to 3-bet that ace-jack because he has some element of some degree of 4-bet bluff to him, or I might have been able to actually, considering stacks here, I wasn't paying attention, to just call Jack Queen off in position or even 3-bet it because we're so deep. I can really pick on that guy, and I'm just going to keep making these cheap plays at Stillwell, these cheap rears in position with hands that I want to play but don't want to play passively. I don't really want to call here. I want to 3-bet. If he 4-bets, I can easily fold, and I don't really mind too much. And if he calls, that's great because I can chip away at him with my position. So I'll take some time, make it look like I've got a decision, then go all in. No. So I'm hoping as I acquire more hands against these guys and start to get some more free time to work within my database and study some of these guys that, like Mr. Flash, who was the guy who back raised all in 6-6 last video. I spent some time analyzing, so by episode 8 I can be kind of playing a little bit more, not only based on history, but based on just a deeper knowledge of their tendencies, which is what I get from not playing HUDless. When you play HUDless, you really have to rely on just taking extremely detailed notes of your hand histories and studying your hand histories and looking for patterns, and you can get a lot of similar reads, but I really can't pinpoint whether or not, mathematically, whether or not it's better to 3-bet ace-jack off in the big blind than it is to call it, and how that kind of applies to my overall range in that position. If I'm 3-betting ace-jack off, what does it mean when I call? My opponent can take ace-jack off out of my range, or does he even know? Does it even matter? What do you guys think here? Complete or raise? Back in like 07, 08, I would always raise, and then in 2010 I started alternating between completing. So the Finkler, he's pretty aggro, but I'd like to think that in this situation he's got a little bit stronger of a range, so I can call here and play kind of face up, and I don't think he'll continue bluffing. Now I kind of have to just hope that he doesn't bet so big, because I've got kind of a bunch of outs. And he bets super small, so I can just call and, based on my implied odds here, and check fold. He's going to show me like 7s when he checks back, and I'm going to feel stupid. I'm so tempted to just see what he has here, but no. I think in this situation, he's going to have like a king or better. It's not going to be bluffing very often with those bet sizes. He's probably, honestly, it's almost likely that he has like a nut hand and is either afraid that I'm going to fold or trying to induce a check raise. More likely afraid that I'm going to fold. Although, he could have just had 7s there. People play 7s like that. Usually they check the river, but sometimes they do weird things. The slowdown's actually not terrible right now, and imagine I just jinxed myself. Oh, Mr. Flash, we're in a 3-betting war. That keeps happening. Oh no, it happened again. Alright, so this is a pretty solid situation. When I get called here, I'm going to keep betting, but I'm not too happy about it. I don't want to check call because I don't want to have to check fold the river, which is what I would do. And I'd rather bet there, and if he calls, he might call with a worse 10 or a 9 on the hook, and I can get a little bit of value. It's kind of like a little bit of a blocking bet. If I improve, I can jam the river myself. If he jams, I can fold. If I check the turn, he checks back, I give him a free card. If he has a worse hand, and like on a board like that, I really don't want to give a free card to lots of hands that have gut shots with them. The thing is, I don't really know a lot about his barreling tendencies in 3-bet pots, and so I risk giving up the pot completely when I check. He bets, and I have to check call, even though there really aren't any. It's almost should be a check fold, but on the off chance that he's bluffing or floating, is going to shut down the river when I call. Like, honestly, as I talk that out, I kind of even just like a check fold, but I like a small bet a little bit more. What do you guys think there? What do you guys normally do? The reason I like check fold other than check call is because you can't check call twice, and you really can't tell whether or not Mr. is going to be bluffing the river. And so you kind of just say, hey, my hand is super weak. It's like a 10 at best, or maybe it's a weak jack or something. And the way to really exploit tendencies in your opponent, once you know what they do in those situations when you check to them on those types of boards, are to start feeding in strong hands to your range that you might check there with. I mean, at least a good jack, but even stronger, you could check a straight there. I guess the wider their range is, the more you're able to check these strong hands, because the super strong hands, because then that they're going to value bet lots of hands that are at the bottom end of their range, but they think still are better than the hands that are at the top of your checking range. And they're also going to bet their bluffs. So you get the best of both worlds. Whereas on the board that I'm talking about with King 10, he doesn't have too many pure floats or bluffs. If I check that turn, he keeps betting. He may have some. It's hard to say what. He doesn't have too many. So here's where we just take the free one and maybe jam over a big turn bet. We'll just keep taking the free one and maybe jam over a river bet. And there we go. Free money. And here, what happened? Call? No, we're gonna raise. That was a little bit too big of a raise. And now we're five-handed and seem to be in control of these tables. No one's really three-betting me a lot, so I can open a little bit more, a little bit looser pre-flop. So he limped, and here's the spot where I'm just gonna bet, and he's gonna fold a lot of his range. When he continues, he's usually gonna have overcards or a pocket pair, and I can fold out the pocket pair by the river. With enough overcards coming my way. I think a lot of people are a little bit hesitant to run aggressive bluffs against short stacks that bet weakly. And here I'll isolate the button limp. King 10. Mainly the difference here between King 10 and Ace 5 suited in that prior hand is that I have position on Mr. Flash if he calls. Yeah, I think a lot of people are reluctant to run these aggressive bluffs against short stacks, but you have to keep in mind if they're not pro short stackers and they're not just like fiendishly shoving their money in with like their hand in their mouth and drool all over their wrist, they are kind of timid because this is like the last money they have in their account, or like they're playing multiple tables and this is like they don't want to go, they want to play 3 tables, they don't want to play 2 tables, they don't want to go down to 1 table, and so they're really just kind of pissing away money timidly because they're really just waiting for a strong hand. What do we have here? Alright, a min raise, a min raise, and a 3x raise. So guys that have been watching this series from the beginning, I'm curious to just hear a little bit about your guys' progression. Let me try to help you guys personally while you're making these videos and you're participating in these threads. Like, what are your guys' goals for the next few months, and how much volume do you get in, and what are your leaks? And let me try and apply some of my many years of coaching experience and help you out a little bit. What stakes are you playing? Where do you want to be? Where do you want to go? What do you look to be taking from this series other than just kind of, what do you take from the series? What are you taking from some of the other videos that you've watched? What are your favorite videos? You guys help me by asking questions and commenting on my spots. It's the least I can do for those of you who are kind enough to follow along on my journey. I've got this like stress relief toy. It's like kind of like a twisty, soft but hard, multicolored thing. It's like a necklace or a bracelet or something. I think it's a baby's chew toy, to be honest, but kind of works. I got it for like $3 on Amazon. If that happens to pique anyone's interest, I'll look through my order history and I'll link it to you. Just don't spread that around the internet. You can spread around the fact that I'm a Power Aces magnet, and I take walks with Power Aces. Check raise here is mighty brutal against an unknown with this hand. Mighty brutal. Well, let's do it. Let's value bet against a queen and get value cut against an ace. I think it's kind of close there. I mean, honestly, it's pretty silly that I did that. Ace 8 is probably the bottom range of hands I should value bet there, and I should most likely be betting just betting that and betting it bigger. But I didn't lose too much if it was a bad value bet because I only bet half pot. I thought this guy is like 33-0. Well, it's only 7 hands, I guess. So I really have no reason to think otherwise. And like, all right, so the Finkler. I mean, I guess I can 3-bet here. But I could also call and check raise all in most flops. Kind of doesn't matter with these stack sizes how you want to get the money in. And I guess I could bet 1/3 pot and fold to a shove here. Could also check raise all in. That would be kind of nasty, but I think 1/3 pot and fold to a shove is like slightly better. You're really just trying to get that pot when he has nothing. I think a lot of players might, on first impression there, check fold or even just like bet too much and pot commit themselves. But it's a great thing about no limit hold'em. You can bet anything, so there's a lot of flexibility. When you start to get weird with your bet sizes, though, or strange or just unusual, in that the bets are not the size. Well, at micro stakes, I guess everyone is betting weird and unusual things. Like I played a hand on this before this video came up. The player's gone now, but it was like I had 4-5 on a board like this. Guy check calls. Turn is a low blank, like a deuce, check calls again. I'm betting pot. And here we're going to fold to an all-in. So what does he have when he calls? I mean, he probably has a better flush draw. Could have 8-9, and he could have a 7. None of those hands he's folding. And if he doesn't have any of those, he has a better hand than that. Wow, lots of ace-king action. Yeah, so basically, like, turns a deuce, river I make my straight, and he check min raises. And like, when you check min raise, well, I'm calling here basically. If he's bluffing, I get to see the river for free. My 3-bet doesn't work. Oh wow, lots of interesting options. Here I'm gonna bet and fold to the jam. Oh, so nasty. I'm also beat by a straight flush, so that's not too worrisome. But what do I lose here to ace-8? That I should just call the river, I think. Sorry, a lot of action going on. I'm trying to recall what I was talking about before that bottom right hand occurred. Oh right, so on that straight hand that I was talking about, I hit the straight on the river and he like check min raises my pot size bet. Just like, alright, shrug, micros factor, like this is weird because most players are, you know, sometimes you're gonna see a boat there or quads, but most players like spaz out before then. They're incapable of very calmly getting to the river with a big hand, so it's just kind of like, sigh, I'm probably beat, but like I have to kind of see. And he had king 8 or king 7, so like top pair, second kicker on a paired possible straight board. So yeah, I guess people are, my point before that I got on that tangent was that people may respond weirdly to your bet sizes, so you kind of have to experiment to your small bet size change. You kind of have to experiment and think about ahead a little bit, or learn from experience and how people may react, and certain players may react to those sizes. Some people, they see you bet small, they think that's weak, and they raise. Some people, when they see you bet small, they think that's value, and they fold stronger hands than they would fold if you bet big. So it's kind of, there's a lot of psychology at play. Yeah, what do you guys think of that ace-king hand? Do you think I should have shoved the flop? Do you think, the bottom right table that just occurred then I bet the river? What do you think of my river bet sizing? What do you think of my river fold? That was kind of an interesting hand, right? When I call the flop, I think, well, he's raising me with strong hands, with a lot of overpairs. He's min raising, hoping that I jam something like ace-king, and he's also bluffing. And when I call, it's kind of worrisome to him. I think he likely, this is probably just a 3-bet, although I'm going to play it for a call. Is this a 3-bet? And how much if you do? I'm going to lead here and see what apologetic does, rather than play this passively. If I play it passively, it's just hard. Like, if I call, apologetic has like a good check raise bluff or semi-bluff opportunity. If I call, and then I'm going to check the turn. Online Live Pro can continue betting. There are lots of bad cards to come from my hand. It's just, I like leading there and kind of taking control of the hand. But yeah, what do you think of that ace-king hand? So on the turn, I think I was saying just how if I do call there, I think with his bluffs that are some hands like Jack 10 suited, Queen King offsuit, Queen jack suited, queen jack off even, ace 10, ace jack, those hands that raise instead of float the flop or bluff raise, they shut down on the turn. And it's quite possible that I was right in calling that was definitely, I mean, he could have had, I guess, aces or kings. I don't know, he probably had aces with the ace of diamonds. He definitely had the ace of whatever color suit that was on the river. If only, so with 100 big blinds there, if only because he just shoved, and there's no way he would shove anything other than a bluff, and I think he just folds a bluff, like a pure bluff. If he was bluffing, he might bluff the turn. Here, on the bottom left, I normally, with 100 big blind stacks, would 3-bet this and play it aggressively. But, well, given the fact that he's 23-9, it's a little... I would 3-bet Lockheed if he was over here. Because he's over there, I'll flat, and this is kind of weak as well to play this hand. Probably should fold. Even if this was a tag, when I'm 3-betting and we're deeper than 100 big blinds and I don't really know much about his post-flop tendencies, whether or not he's going to be kind of passive. I just don't like ballooning the pot with a hand that I'm really only happy if I hit something huge. Because if I hit one pair, I'm committed to shoveling a lot of money in, and he gets good implied odds on his draws, especially the deeper he is. 70 is not as bad as 80 or 90 or 100 or even more. Then you start to have to worry about overvaluing one pair hands and about getting yourself into big ugly bluff situations in which you're pot committing yourself, pot stuck, you're grasping to try and win the pot no matter what. And normally in those situations I like to have a hand that is a strong overpair that beats when he has king queen and I have aces, that's great. When he has a queen or a king, or when he has ace queen, there's a queen or a king, that's great. He's not going to fold those hands. I'm going to have the overpair, or I'm going to have a hand that can hit a straight or a flush. I think the old adage is as blinds increase, as the number of big blinds increases in your stack, as you get deeper, value of one pair goes down, the value of the suited connectors and gappers goes way up. Ace-X suited goes way up. Usually in position or live poker we're talking about that, but it still kind of applies to online poker. Good bless me. Poker gods bless me. So he opened a bit bigger, and we can say that that's because kind of loose, and he pop bets the flop. With these stacks, I love raising here instead of floating because, well, the reason being that I can decide, if he calls, I can decide to take the free card. Just kind of I don't know. I almost want to bet and shove the river, but I don't know if this guy knows who I am. I can't bluff the river here because he'll call me with a king or a 10. I could have only really... Oh, so ugly. Yeah, maybe I should have bet the turn and bet the river. I guess I was thinking that... not to be results oriented, because I obviously was considering betting the turn and betting the river. And seeing Queen Jack, I don't think I should have bet the river, because his range of hands that can fold on the river is Queen Jack and diamonds improved. His range of drawing hands. But on the turn, it's well, when he bets 2, I guess when he bets so big on the flop and raised so big pre-flop, I guess for some reason I was just automatically tuned in, thinking that like his range is more weighted to include like pure bluffs and hands with showdown value, like King X or a 10X. And then when I raise the flop and he calls, it's just like, he's gonna call me down with anything, you know. And if he calls and the draw hits, then I have to bet the draw to try and bluff him off a king. But what if he has a draw? I don't know. That one's. I think I should have bet the turn and bet big on the river there. What do you guys think? I'm kind of convinced that that's a play I should have made, regardless of results. I think it's really hard for him to call me with, I think I get called by king queen. Hard to say. King jack off, if he had that, would he call me? But anything else I think folds on the river. And even if a diamond came, I think I have to bomb the river too, because then he folds those king jack and king queen hands, most likely, unless he's like, there's always the off chance that they know who I am, because the player pool is small, and I know DC members are watching these videos, and I know that like players talk to each other. So by this point, a month plus into making videos, I think a lot more regular players who are like familiar with online poker, they're probably aware of who I am. In which case, I really can't get away with running creative bluffs that I would run with an unknown screen name. And I don't know why I just led there, because I thought, oh yeah, he flatted and then he min raises. That's fine. You can have that one. But yeah, going back to it, even though I think the raise, flop, bet turn, jam, or bet big on the river is probably the best line, I'm not unhappy with the result of the raise, because it's kind of like the old limit hold'em play where you juice the pot up and on the cheap streets, and if he calls, you can take a free card, see the river. And if you hit, then you can continue with the deep stacks, you can get all the money in. Whereas if you call, then he bets the turn, and if you then decide to like raise the turn as a bluff, which I don't think many players do, he can call, and your hand looks, when you do hit, if you do hit and raise the turn, your hand looks a lot stronger than if you had raised the flop and then hit the turn. There's lots of reasons when you're deep to like be aggro in position, whereas if you were facing that pot size bet on the flop and you're 100 big blinds deep, you may not want to raise, you may just want to float or just call rather than call it float. I guess float is usually reserved for calling with like no pair or backdoor draw or something like that, rather than, well, I guess we only had a gut shot, so that is kind of a float. So sad. Had to fold king queen suited. Pains me. Ace queen off. I'm just playing it here like it were king queen off. Although like I'm a little bit more tempted to 3-bet both hands from the small blind versus the big blind, because the small blind I worry that online live pro may squeeze or at least come in, and then I'm kind of out of position with a weak position. Oh, I should have bet the sixes, but that's okay. It's not a huge missed opportunity. I'd bet there just because he's calling so many hands pre-flop. I can get him to fold a lot of his junk. No, I do want to check with my 10 deuce. It's a Doyle Brunson. He won the World Series with that hand, and maybe other tournaments, maybe even multiple World Series. I think I asked this question in the last video, but no one really responded, so I'll ask it again. Are you guys watching other series concurrently right now, or other videos even? And if so, which ones? I really want to watch some of the currently running series, but then like there's this thread in which like Improva and Blah and S-Thief are all talking about some game theory related stuff, like analyze a hand, and I want it. It's on DC. I forget what it's called, and I don't want to load up DC right now simultaneously because I'm afraid that software will slow down even more. But if anyone's curious, I can link to it in the thread. Just point it out, or you can link it if you know what I'm talking about. They're talking about game theory. It's a pretty intense conversation. I wanted to understand it better because I can kind of understand it, but like not really. What they're talking about is kind of complex and advanced. I can only understand it like theoretically and conceptually. And here I'm calling, hoping more people call, but also okay, seeing what happens and getting the money in on decent flops. So I emailed Josh asking him like, what videos can I watch to understand this conversation better, and he gave me like a list of some old videos in his applied math and playbook series, and so now I've got like a backloaded list of videos. So lots of videos on my list, not a lot of time. Here's going to be a fun big pot, I hope. If I get raised here, it's really ugly. When I get called again, I may be looking at a set. So now the question is, you bet call or bet fold? I mean, I obviously bet calling because it's so much money in. But I think if I jam there, I'm calling here hoping he comes along. I think if I jam there, I may not get as called as much as I would if I bet, the amount that I bet there. I think it's kind of close. And maybe what do you guys think? Did I mess with my bet sizing there? Kind of want to go back and look at the hand history. Firstly, see what he had if I can. What the hell is it? Previous. And what do you guys think of my call there? With ace 3, I mean, it's kind of too much money to call, to be honest. But I kind of, for some reason, thought that Boyd Crowder would come in. That was probably dumb of me. But my mind was distracted by this hand. So what does he have? It doesn't show, which is kind of annoying. We'll see if PT will tell me what he had. But so I should have bet. My mistake was not betting bigger on the flop and or the turn. I should have bet bigger at least on the turn to size up a river shove, and then I could have comfortably done it instead of overbet shoving the river. And I don't know. My bet sizing that hand was poor. Let's see. It's this one, right? doesn't show me on this site. Does anyone else have issues with that? Getting a little saucy for our final-ish orbits. Opening more hands. So what do I got? Spirit Sancti on the button. Alright. We'll try and steal this. 70 cents. King high. Let's hit an ace. Booyah! Huh. I'll take the nut. To that boat. Might as well raise and see if he'll call me with a 4. People at these 6 are bad. It's just a bad call. Oh, pocket kings. Yes, ma'am. I unfortunately don't have any sweet movies to recommend this week. I haven't really been watching too many movies. I've had a lot of work for the. Oh yeah, I guess I can give you guys some updates with the Boom documentary project. So not too many updates to give, but we have applied to South by Southwest Film Festival. We hear back by February 8th. I have no idea. I'll just call in the hopes that I have the best hand or hit a 6. The bottom left, no idea. I think we're maybe like a 50-50 to get in, but I really don't know. There are like a lot of amazing documentaries now these days coming out, and so hard to say. And we sent them an early version that is nowhere near as good as the one that we're finishing up now. Our final picture lock is going to be by March 1st. And so we also applied to this festival in Toronto, Hot Docs, and we're applying to LA Independent Film Festival. And when it comes out kind of depends on how we do in these festivals. If, let's just see what he has, I guess, for 50 cents. Oh, Burned by the River. But we will be launching a website, I think, in mid to late February with the ability to see a lot more content about the movie, get a much better feel for what it's going to be about. We're going to have a new trailer, and we're also going to have the sweet ability to digitally pre-order 3-bet 0 over so many hands. I'm just going to call, hoping to flop the Super Monster and fold generally everything else. If he checks here, I'm going to steal it because I may have Ace King. Let's look at this guy. Also 3-bet 0 over 100-something hands, and well, now we've got multi-callers, so now we're in trouble. So here I check, because the great thing that can happen is that he can bet and he can fold, and then I can call or get in trouble, or he can bet and he can go all in, and then I can fold, or if he calls I can still fold, even though sometimes I'm folding the best hand here. Although, actually, when he calls, I'm going to min raise. That's the most that I'll put in. If he comes along, and he comes along, then I'm only putting more money in if I improve, and probably only with a 3 on the turn. And so, right. You might argue that. Oh, wow. Got out of that cheap. Probably could have just folded the flop. Curious what you guys would do there too. What do you think of my play? Trying to get him out and isolate red A high, or whatever his name is. A lot of seemingly strange situations came up today that I haven't faced in a bit. So yeah, we've got the final structure of the movie finally in place. It's looking really good, and we're running out of money, as we should be. We're strategizing our release, and this is gonna be a big year. So hopefully, all you guys get to see it and share it with people, because it is the story of online poker. I'm sure I've said this in other videos, so I'm sorry if I'm redundant, but we really need the support of the entire poker world. I'm going to be looking to get it and to capitalize on that and to win with pocket kings. So what do we have here? Oh, we just have this crazy dude who's going to give us his stack, or he's going to take it from us when he's got pocket jacks. Nothing you can do there except get stacked, in my opinion. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about with the documentary, just Google Boom Poker Documentary Trailer. It's on YouTube. I'll have much more to say about that in the future. So am I getting 3-bet a lot by this dude suddenly? Oh boy. Here I just check jam, or check, yeah, I usually just check jam. Because he's so tight. Oh, I'm not going to check jam, I'm going to check raise and call it off. It's worth noting. Where is it? Got, I think, one more hand on the top left. What do you think Mr. Flash has here? Probably not bluffing. Bad situation to be in with ace-9. Alright, hope you enjoyed this video. Lots of stuff to potentially discuss. Looking forward to talking about it with you throughout the week. Good luck, and may the poker gods speed you to victorious rivers.